name is Shubhajit Ghosh, and I'm your host for today's event. I'm very excited to introduce the topic of our debate for the day. It is India needs multiple TV ratings providers because competition drives excellence. I'll repeat it for everybody. It's India needs multiple TV ratings providers because competition drives excellence. We had a great E4M media debate edition there back in Delhi, and now it's time for the second one here in Mumbai. Ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here today, we are about to witness a thought-provoking discussion on the significance of multiple TV ratings providers in the country. Our esteemed moderator, Dr. Anurag Batra, a man who needs no introduction, but of course I love introducing him, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of BW Business World Media Group and founder of E4M Group, will guide our panelists throughout the debate. Thank you so much. Give it up for Dr. Batra, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. To tell you all a little more about our panelists, we have speaking for the motion, Karthik Sharma, Group CEO, Omnicom Media Group India. We have
Request you to come on because we want to start
Yes.
up at 3.
Give it up for Karthik, sir, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We have Avinash Pandey, CEO, ABP Network. Can I please have you on stage, sir? We have Abdul Khan, founder and CEO, 4IR Technologies. And we also have Pankaj Krishna, founder and CEO, Chroma Data Analytics and Media. Please give it up for all of them, our speakers for the motion. Okay, Chroma. It's written wrongly over here. It's Chrome. I repeat once again. Thank you. Now I'll be requesting our speakers against the motion to kindly join us on stage. We have Patitosh Joshi, Principal at Provocateur Advisory, a media advisory practice. We have Karthi Marshan, Principal, Marshan.ink. We have Kailash Adhikari, Business Head, Sri Adhikari Brothers Network. And we also have the privilege of having with us Mr. Chintamani Rao, Strategic Marketing and Media Consultant, who's joining us virtually over here. Can we please have him over here as well?
Yeah, he's joining us.
Yeah.
Digitally.
So thank you so much, respected panelists and moderators, sir. I believe the stage is yours now. Thank you, sir.
I just have to call Mr. Pankaj Krishna of Chrome. Pankaj is here. Yeah.
Pankaj is here. Yeah, please join, sir.
From here.
My job is done over here. You come.
Thank you. Thank you. We have to start at 3. We are at 2:58. So it's good that we are, because the debate is being streamed live. Essentially, we are recording it here. The Exchange for Media debate is a platform to debate issues that impact the industry, are important for the industry, and the diverse stakeholders of the marketing, advertising, media industry have a viewpoint. The reason we are doing the E4M debate on multiple rating agencies is because the TRAI had asked for a white paper and an expression of interest to invite multiple rating agencies for the ecosystem. The last date was 30th April. We did a debate in Delhi on the 24th of April. And today on 2nd May, we are doing the second edition of the Exchange for Media debate. We couldn't have asked for a better panel. We broadly have 3 stakeholders. If you don't count government and the viewer as a stakeholder, we have the advertiser whose money is what drives the ecosystem of media. You have the media agencies who are gatekeepers or investment advisors to the brands and business owners. And third, definitely we have the media owners whose platforms are used to access audiences. So for the motion of having multiple media rating agencies, we have Mr. Avinash Pandey, who's the CEO of the ABP Network. Please give him an applause. We have Mr. Abdul Khan, who has been a business leader, brand leader. He was the CMO when Jio launched. Then he went on to be the CMO of Tata Docomo. And in the last few years, he's turned an entrepreneur, and he has an enterprise which helps brands, businesses utilize marketing tech to be able to build businesses and brands. To his right is Mr. Karthik Sharma, who's the Group CEO of Omnicom in India and has done a great job in building the business of its brands who are his clients. And he also participated in the Delhi debate virtually. To his right is Mr. Pankaj Krishna of Chrome. Chrome helps the stakeholders with data points and research and insights in the multi-universe, multi-platform ecosystem. The Chrome's digital insights are used by many broadcasters and decision makers in this ecosystem. So thank you, Pankaj, for joining us. On my left is the panelist against the motion. We don't need multiple rating agencies. To my immediate left is Mr. Karthi Marshan, who is now an independent consultant and entrepreneur, but for a long time has donned the hat of an investor from the brand standpoint. Last, he was the group CMO at the Kotak Mahindra group of institutions. To his left is Mr. Paritosh Joshi, who understands this ecosystem both as a broadcaster. He is in the senior leadership of large broadcasting organizations, has been the CEO of both non-news and news broadcasting platforms, and is now actively involved with BARC to be able to have a audience measurement system that meets the expectations of the industry. Welcome, Mr. Paritosh Joshi. Please give a round of applause. And to his left is Mr. Kailash Adhikari, who represents a broadcaster, the Shri Adhikari brothers. They're pioneers in content on multiple platforms, and he and his group founded the very popular Sub channel, and now the Masti group of channels are really dominating the music system. Mr. Kailash Adhikari, welcome to the debate. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Chintamani Rao. And this debate was born out of a nudge from him that it is an important topic we should debate. He joined us physically in Delhi, but he's joining us virtually through Zoom. Welcome, Mr. Rao, to the debate. Let me lay down the rules of the debate. I'll ask each of the panelists to do their opening comments in less than 3 minutes. And really, there are 3 questions to be answered. Why are we having this debate? Why is there a need or a call for multiple rating agencies? What is the current system not being able to cater to, or where does it need to improve? This is the first question. Second is, what is the way forward? Even if you have a second rating system or multiple, will the issues that are there with the first go away? And third, which is a question I hear very, very often, who will pay for the second rating system or the third rating system? I have my point of view on it. So hopefully these are the 3 broad questions. And the sub questions are, how do you measure digital? One of the biggest complaints is of the broadcasters is that the digital audiences are not being measured. We had a broadcaster on the debate in Delhi who cited anomalies in data. He was a broadcaster from a Punjabi broadcasting ecosystem. He said on the day of a awards night where all Punjabi celebrities were at the awards night and it was telecast, a Bhojpuri platform had the highest ratings in Punjab. And I know of other instances that my friends from news broadcastings have shared where 2 plus 2 doesn't add up to 4. So clearly there is need for improvement. Let me first bring in the first participant of the debate for the motion. Let me start by bringing Mr. Avinash Pandey for his opening comments.
Well, hello. Yeah. So thank you so much, Anurag, for organizing this. This is a much needed discussion that we should have in open forum rather than one-on-one with the BARC and between the BARC and the broadcaster. The current state of TV rating system demand immediate attention right now. Fostering competition and promoting fair and transparent television audience measurement method is a dire need for driving excellence in this particular field. I firmly believe that the monopolistic landscape in TV rating is detrimental to the growth and progress of the TV industry. BARC India has served the TV industry well for over a decade, but owing to various controversies that it has gone time and again, it is imperative to relook at the organization's methodology and discuss whether we need multiple agencies to enforce due checks and balance for credible measurement of viewership. It is also noteworthy that the emergence of OTT, other digital platform, social media disrupted the TV industry a lot, which necessitates a significant overhaul of currently the way the television audience measurement is done. Today, you consume the same news, entertainment content on multiple devices at multiple places, while what BARC is currently measuring is a household consumption happening on a TV, which is very, very linear. It does not Therefore, it is completely eroding the value that the content maker and broadcasters like us are giving. It is very, very important to understand that the way any competition what any competition does to any industry is to make it more efficient. And hence, I would be quite surprised to know that who is afraid for any more competition. Number one. Number two, when we talked about the funding, you asked the question about the funding. Let the entrepreneurs invest in the system, get them license. Government is ready to give them license now as per the new broadcast policy that will come into force. And let the entrepreneur find out the money. Why we are talking about who is going to pay? If there is a consumer for it, the alternative system will survive, rather thrive. So let there be competition. Competition brings efficiency and eliminates inefficiencies in the system.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. I will respond to your comments, but let me bring in Mr. Chintamani Rao to be able to make his opening comments against it. Mr. Rao, all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Anurag?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Competition drives excellence. Terrific. Question. Does it always? Did it in telecom?
Yes.
What happened to all those service providers, among them some very big names?
You can be louder, Mr. Rao.
Be louder.
So competition, does competition always drive excellence? What happened in telecom? What happened to all those service providers, among them some very big names? What happened to the competition among telecom? Rate cuts, cutting costs at the expense of quality of service, making operations unviable. We boast of the world's cheapest mobile phone service. We certainly don't boast of the world's best. So what happened? Mergers, acquisitions, bankruptcy, and now there are 3 providers in the whole country. Now, that is telecom. Look at the history of media measurement itself. We had TAM and INTAM. Then we had TAM and AMAP. In print, we have NRS and IRS. So what happened? First of all, the different definitions, different methodologies. Which one do you subscribe to? How do you interpret the data? You use it as it suits you. Example, when we had TAM and INTAM. INTAM was a six city study, 6-city measurement. People were using it like it was national data because they look better on INTAM than they do on TAM, and so forth. But very critically, viability. The market could not support 2 vendors. TAM bought over INTAM, AMAP folded up, NRS and IRS merged. Avinash talked about who will pay is not an issue. So he said, let the investors invest. The issue is not the cost of operation. If Avinash said, if there is a market, yes, that's the question. Is there a market? The issue is that the market is not big enough to support more than one provider, for more than one provider to be financially viable. The existing market gets split among 2 or 3. How many media owners or media agencies would subscribe to more than one data provider? Would any of you media owners here buy 2?
Chinta, you have to put your mic closer to you.
Well, this is as close as it gets.
Does this help? Can't hear you.
Does this help?
Yes.
Now we can.
It's better.
It's better.
Oh dear. So all that I said so far is lost.
You heard a fair bit. No, we heard that.
Okay.
We heard that you talked about AMAP holding up TAM and INTAM merging, and you were talking about how Avinash said, let the markets, customers, and the entrepreneur and the investor decide whether they're viable and how they will.
The issue is not about funding the operation. The issue is the market big enough to provide the revenue for more than one service provider? How many media owners and media agencies would buy more than one? It is the responsibility of the regulator to protect the consumer interests and to that end ensure the viability of service providers so that they're able to maintain quality of service. TRAI failed miserably in its main remit, which is telecom, and now it is proposing the same thing in broadcasting. And far from ensuring the viability of the single service provider, TRAI has been prescribing an increase in sample size without apparently a thought about who will pay for it. Which subscriber, again, not cost of operation. More bigger samples, higher cost, higher charges. Who will pay the subscription? Who's willing? Raise your hands. Sample size 100,000. Raise your hand, those who are willing to pay for it. Apart from recommending increasing sample sizes, TRAI in 2020 recommended mandatory adoption of RPD. Very good. All of us know RPD is a good thing. But it went on to say that DPOs should be allowed to negotiate the terms on which they will share the data with the ratings provider. So TRAI said it is mandatory for the ratings provider to buy the data. It is not mandatory for the DPO to sell the data. Figure that out. But that, of course, is consistent with TRAI's past pattern of treading very carefully, very gingerly when it comes to the DPOs. So what is the issue and what's the way forward? There are, of course, many questions about BARC and its functioning. But I have always maintained and continue to maintain that audience measurement is no business of the government. It is not about the number of vendors, it is about how they are managed. Two poorly managed vendors are certainly not better than one. And the key issue with BARC is that it is dominated by one of its constituents. And that is the one that is being measured. When BARC was conceived of, when MOU was signed, it was conceived of as an equal stakes venture of three industry bodies. All three stakeholders in the ecosystem were to be represented: broadcasters, advertisers, and agencies, and to have equal shares and equal voting rights so that not one of them should call the shots. In its 2013 guidelines for accreditation, TRAI specified that not more than 10% of a ratings provider could be owned by an agency, advertiser, or a broadcaster. Having laid down that condition, it went on to accredit a single vendor owned only by those three prescribed categories. Again, please figure it out. Worse, it was owned in the majority by the one category that should not have been allowed to own it in majority. I have always questioned the role of the ISA, and I continue to do so. It is their money that fuels the entire media ecosystem. Why did they, to begin with, accept a structure in which IBF had 60%? Having done that, they appear from the outside, they appear to sit passively and accept all that goes on. Perhaps they don't. Perhaps there are heated debates in the boardroom, but we don't know that. And we can't see that from the outcome. The April 2020 document of TRAI does make some sound recommendations for structural reforms. One of those is equal board representation for three constituents with equal voting rights, irrespective of their share of equity. Again, I don't accept a role for the government, but there is much sense in those recommendations. We live in a post-TV world. We spend as much on digital media as we do on linear TV advertising. What about digital metrics? Is there even an accepted standard metric in the digital space? The world's biggest media owner, Google, simply gives you their own metrics, and you have choice. Take it or lump it. Why doesn't again? Avinash talked about the change that has taken place. Yes, there's a whole change in the environment, in the environment, in the media ecosystem. But why doesn't BARC measure is the wrong question. Multiple service providers so that it can be measured is the wrong answer. The question to ask is how can we make multi-screen measurement possible? That is what matters. Addressing the question, addressing multiple measurement providers may be a good solution, but it doesn't solve the problem that exists. I don't know what problem it solves.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to you. At this point, let me bring in Mr. Karthik Sharma, who is speaking for the motion as a media agency CEO, as somebody who advises the brands. He has a point of view which matters.
Thanks, Anurag, and thanks to all the panelists. Firstly, I would look at this entire topic. In fact, the title itself says a lot. Multiple TV ratings, will it bring in more competition and drive excellence? I believe it will. The question really is, do we want to measure more of the same or more of something different? And I come from the school that we don't need more of the same, which means I think some of the arguments put together by Chintamani earlier was TAM and TAM AMAP. They were all measuring this, trying to measure the same things. In a world which is so fragmented, which Avinash rightly pointed out, if we look back and think from the lens of the consumer sees multiple screens, TV, mobile, everything, and they're all content in the broader sense. And what we need from a ratings, I would just replace the word TV ratings to broadly saying content plus advertising ratings system, which measures everything the consumer is trying to see. And rather than it being seen as a competing system, it can be seen as a complementary system. Now, the obvious question, therefore, is will it work? Or is India going to be the only market? I think Chinta rightly pointed out, RPD is one of the ways of doing it. There are other technological interventions one can bring in. We'll come to the cost side in a minute. Telco probably is an extreme example of how things went wrong in the country. We can't keep mentioning about telco and its not so glorious past. But if you look at the other side, and I have some of ex-banking friends here, the kind of tech changes which have happened in banking, the robustness which fintech has brought in, we can take a lot of lessons from that. There are many countries where there are two systems exist. RPD plus from a people meter system, US, Singapore, Australia, Malaysia, still exists even today, and there are users. Finally, we can have as many systems as we want. The user has to be intelligent. Thanks to Anurag for inviting me in Delhi also, and I asked this question: why do we have two stock exchanges? What benefit does it do? Why do we have multiple credit bureaus? Why don't we just have CIBIL? Why do we need experienced CIBIL and multiple things? I think the short answer is it does definitely bring in innovation, puts some bit of pressure on incumbents not to be slack. And it also allows the current incumbent to improve and the new players to improve. So like in any walk of a life, competition is good. Yes, we cannot have 50 players like certain. We can, like today in India, probably we have 300 sub brands. We don't need 300 rating agencies, but we definitely need more than one. And not to necessarily measure the same thing. That part I would probably agree, but there is so much which is happening with the consumer, and there's room and excellence will come in. And we have the past history across markets which have done. Coming to funding, the market, India is probably one of the, and Paritosh will know this better than me, is the lowest spending on market research. Clients talk a lot about it, but when it actually comes to funding, the real answer is clients don't put the money. Research as a budget of total advertising or marketing spends is point something something. And even the largest company, we say we do lip service on we want good data, but we are not willing to pay, which is not the case with many of the developed markets. And once that maturity comes in saying, hey, I need to make complex decision, I need to invest, which has to come first from the marketers, I think the funding will naturally happen. It's not that complex.
Thank you, Karthik. I'm taking mental notes of the points. Avinash, Chintamani, you, all of you made. But let me bring in Paritosh Joshi at this point, who will oppose the motion that we need multiple rating agencies. Paritosh, all yours.
I want to start with a very specific disclaimer. While I serve on committees of BARC, I continue to serve on committees of BARC. I am not here as an advocate for BARC. I am not representing BARC, and I think that needs to be very explicitly stated. Anyway, with that out of the way, allow me to get a little pedantic, because I think it's important to get a little formal in this conversation about what we are talking about. And what we are talking about, and that's a word which is missing in this, is that ultimately you require a currency measurement, right? You can have as many measurements as you want. I think what Karthik just said is that India's spend on research has traditionally been very, very low. India's willingness to spend, even advertisers, I mean, Chinta thought that the ISA ought to have, been on the front foot in, maybe funding things like BARC. But Chinta and I both remember, because we were both on the board of MRUC back in the day, when IRS started going off the rails. And the reason it started going off the rails was there was nobody who was willing to even support the tiny 15, 17 crore cost of running an annual research of merely 275,000 homes, which was what it was back in the day. So it collapsed. The IRS effectively, for all intents and purposes, is now a ghost. I don't know when the last time IRS actually made an appearance. So it's not that people are desperate to put money on the table, but you do need a basis on which you can have a conversation. What is a currency, and why is it important to bring the word currency research into this conversation? Currency, in the sense of pecuniary currency, is three things. It is a store of value, it's a medium of exchange, and it's a unit of accounting. And a currency research, for whatever platform you're talking about, provides exactly these three things, right? It provides a store of value, it provides a medium of exchange. Now, it is in the nature of currencies that you can't have multiple currencies operating within a single market. You will argue, for instance, and this is where I think we start getting into thoda la la land kind of a conversation, that the equivalent might be that you have a fiat currency like the Indian rupee, and then you have a cryptocurrency, right? And that cryptocurrency also is in some vague way a store of value, and it may be a medium of exchange. But here's where the problem comes in, which is that a fiat currency like the Indian rupee, like the US dollar, has the backing of a guarantor. The issuer is the guarantor, right? If you do not have trust in the issuer, if you do not have wide acceptance of the issuer, somewhere along the line, it turns into the Zimbabwe dollar, right? Now, entirely accepting the point that Chinta made about, should it have been different in terms of the economic structure? At least you have one thing going for the currency measurement that you have in place right now, which is the three big stakeholders, which we all acknowledge, are all bought into it, right? At the time when we launched this system, remember that TAM was still issuing ratings, and there was still some hesitation, at least one person from that era is sitting right in front of us, about how much time it would take before people would start transacting using the thing that we wished to make a currency, right? But it happened, and it happened within the first 9 months, right? What it also does is that apart from store of value, it has one more thing, which is that it gives you continuity of data. It gives you a pattern on which you can actually assess and evaluate and say, this is what's happening to this particular medium. am I walking away from the issues that got raised, for instance, by Karthik about we need to measure across screens? Avinash made that point, I think forcefully. I think it's an important point. And I think everybody accepts, anybody who's in the world of research, that if you do not have cross-media measurement, then you are faltering. You are not going the whole hog. And perhaps there is a lot of work that needs to be done to ensure that we make that, that bridge that gap, that we start measuring everything that is involved. But to then say that we are going to get a second currency, well, what you will basically have is a crypto with all the, frailties and volatilities that it represents. If you want a currency measure, it needs to be stable. It needs to be robust. And this wishy-washy thing of the investor will come, I think is a little far-fetched.
Okay, thank you, Paritosh. There are issues with BARC, and that's why this debate and a need. We'll come to that. But at this point, let me bring somebody who's Chintamani keeps referring to as the advertiser, as a member of the ISA, whose money is being used to funnel this ecosystem or support this ecosystem. Let me bring in Mr. Abdul Khan, who has been an advertiser for a long time, and now he has perspectives.
Ex-advertiser, actually. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of acronyms. I've been working with the government for 10 years, and we do have acronyms galore. This is beyond that. Anyway, I'll just tell you a story. I mean, about 10 years back, my mother used to keep on telling me, what is it that, you take these times, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and you claim that you've launched mobile phones numbering to about 500 million in numbers. Why are you obsessed with the television screen? And that's true. What is BARC doing? If I take the currency analogy, they're giving you a currency. I don't agree with the analogy, but they're giving you a currency to buy maybe a shirt and socks, period. We are living in an era which is a truism, which is completely different. I'm in the midst of technology and I realize the possibilities. We don't even have a roadmap to do anything except talking about doing things. We are into decentralized platforms. We all know that. All of us are content creators. So it's ubiquitous content. We have multiple attention avenues. The television screen is one. And we need believable, measurable, robust measures which keep to the law of the land. In spite of all the jibes about the government not getting into it, we need that. The acronym does spell DUMB, and that is how we've been approaching this whole thing. Now, what is the roadmap really? I don't even see even in BARC, and I think I've been there a few times, we don't even see apart from talk at seminars, a group really there to do something about it. And when I step in there, with all due respect to my friends, it's like, the song Jaane Kahan Gaye, wo din kahin nahi gaye, because they're the same people there who started advertising with me. There is nobody there who is up to speed on technology. There's nobody who's, maybe below 45 years old there in the team. That's not tenable, yeah. It's just not tenable there. All of you know, and the proposition, competition breeds excellence. And I will again ignore the jibes at telecom. We have a billion plus telecom subscribers at the world's lowest telecom rates. And we go on seeing telecom in India's flop, which is, I think, stupid. But there it is. But that's not the argument today. We are not in a linear world. And if you guys know better, the share of advertising revenue is dropping. Yes, but we have an elephant in the room called Google, which is no different from BARC, which is hiding everything under, the bushel. Google says, Meta says, I'm telling you, if BARC has to open up, they also have to open up. So let's see from BARC to bite. What can we bite on beyond the BARC? One is we need a robust roadmap encompassing technology, encompassing, newer genres. And what I had heard about this thing, whatever happens on television, on news, is nothing. I mean, the sky could fall, but it's Kavya or whatever thing which will be ahead. What algorithms are being used? Second is research. Who is auditing that research on the field? I mean, I'm not going to get into the murky stuff there, but who's auditing it? Where is that audit? Third is that the issues which you guys also know about, the landing page issue, and the amount of data all of us, I mean, in telecom have, you're not even using it. You're not at all. You're just ignoring the whole thing. You're not even got, why is Airtel, Jio and everybody not on this thing? No, nobody's there. Nobody asked. So all I have to say is that there are two things. Yes, we do need multiple guys, but BARC also needs some bite. No, we are not, we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's what.
Thank you, Abdul, for being authentic and creative with using technology. Of course, you suggested a solution that we take the telco data, which the government could mandate, and that could solve the multi-platform measurement. That would also bring in authentic first-hand data without any manual intervention. One of the criticisms of BARC data has been, it has been alleged that BARC data has manual interventions. So before we come back to you for your second level of contents, let me bring in Mr. Karthi Marshan, who is a very popular voice in this ecosystem. And who,
since I'm the last, can I just come back in exactly 30 seconds?
yes, you're the second last. Kailash is the last. So we started at 4. Yeah. Yes. So 1 for, 1 against, as I said. So, Mr. Karthi Marshan, what are your suggestions in improving the rating system that exists today?
So, people say that a second marriage is the triumph of hope over experience. And I don't know of any parents who decided that they screwed up with their first child and therefore they would have a second child and that would give them a chance at a success. We have problems, we all know it, but I think it is best that we look inside our houses and get our house in order. And as an advertiser, we've been accused of not stepping up to the plate and not paying up. I think everything that's been paid is paid by us. So you have to figure out how to be more efficient with the money available and use enough of it for this alleged research as well. If you're not stepping up as party players for this conversation, sure, call us out, no problem with that, and we are happy to. But all the rupees that are available to this whole ecosystem, all of us are getting paid from that same dollar. We want a couple of pennies out of it to get our act together, on the one hand. On the other hand, on this issue of funding, I think we've known for quite some time now, thanks to all the big movements in technology, that we don't need devices that we invent to put into houses. There are devices already in the house. There are devices that are able to give us data. We have to figure out privacy protected ways to suck that data out, and we will have near census level of information. I think the real reason we're not doing it is not about our abilities, it's about our intent. I think there's a lot of people who are hiding behind issues like privacy because we don't want to find out that the emperor has no clothes on.
Thank you, Karthi. Clearly, you're saying improve the system, and we'll come to what needs to be improved in the system. While Mr. Pankaj Krishna comes back, let me bring in Mr. Kailash Adhikari from Shri Adhikari Brothers Television Network to be able to give his comments on why multiple rating systems are not needed.
Thank you, Dr. Batra, and thank you so much for having all of us over on this very important debate. And this is a debate, this is a topic which actually drives the $4 billion TV advertising industry. So naturally, it requires a lot of thought over because there's a good amount of money which is involved and a good amount of stakeholders which are also there. Now, firstly, in terms of the rating agency, BARC in 2016 was formed with the consensus of and as a shareholders of all the 3 important stakeholders whose money is there, whose platform is being used, and whose also the intellect and the entire administration is being used in dispersing that money, which is the IBDF, which is the ISA, as well as the AAAI. So it is not that BARC was some private organization which was just set up and it is pushing itself. It was all the 3 stakeholders in consensus coming forward for it. Now, secondly, talking about the point of affordability, which Dr. Batra, you also mentioned, and all our respected panelists also mentioned, yes, there is an issue of affordability. Today, BARC is a certain percentage of your revenue if you are on the map of the channels earning that amount of money. Now, if you have multiple rating agencies, yes, for the broadcasters and for the broadcasters P&L, there will be a question on who will fund it. Because now BARC as an agency is close to about 55,000 panel homes. They have about 2,500 meters, even in the outdoor OOH areas, such as restaurants and etc. Now, for any rating agency which is newly set up, or even an existing one, let's say, which were there prior, to reach up to that kind of level, it requires a considerable amount of capital expenditure and operating expenditure also. And that level of understanding. First, it will take time. Secondly, what about the cost involved? Who will actually fund it? Are the 3 stakeholders willing to fund it? Is each and every stakeholder, the advertisers, the various agencies, the various broadcasters willing to shell out that kind of money in such an environment and in today's business environment out of their P&L to do that? That is an important question. And secondly, is about the confusion that it will create. For example, let's say there are 2-3 rating agencies, or let's say there are 2 rating agencies. Now, today as a broadcaster, I feel that my data on BARC supports me, my point in front of the agency. If the data is a slightly different one, taking cue from Mr. Sharma's point that you can have different households measuring some different agency measuring different households, not the BARC panel homes. Now, if the data through those agencies have a different picture about my product, and there's a deadlock between the agency, between the advertiser and the broadcaster, then how do we solve that? Then are we actually going into or solving the problem or addressing the issue of seamless measurability of data and monetization of data if this deadlock arises, And thirdly, the point is that BARC is about 9-10 years old, a decade old, as Mr. Pandey mentioned, and it has fair amount of data of television, the linear television with it. Now, if we go towards measuring digital, let's say tomorrow, also the connected TVs, which are roughly around 25-30 million, and they are growing. If there is a convergence of all three these datas, will any other rating agency be well equipped to do so? So those are, some of the issues that we need to consider.
Thank you, Kailash, for your opening comments. Mr. Pankaj Krishna, you have a nuanced view of what's happening in this ecosystem. You measure data on multi-platforms and digital. You're a very important voice in this ecosystem. Your opening comments.
Hi, Anurag. Thank you for having me over. I want to start off by, I can't hold this, but I want to respond to Mr. Chintamani on how big the market is. I haven't been on your debates before, but I'm sure this is all issue-based. So there is no personality or person being debated here. But I think this is the world's biggest market. How big is the market? That's preposterous. We are a market of 143 crore people, right? I've got some numbers here. 22 languages. That's how heterogeneous this market is. 28 states. We've got 12 major religions. The television household stands at 234 million, with cable and satellite at 161 million as of now. Now, the biggest challenge here is the 857 active MSOs. Now, I'll explain you the role of a cable operator in this entire business. It gets further complicated because you've got 53,000 LMOs, the guys who come to your house to collect the money. So this entire industry is dependent on them. And we've got 1,178 active channels as we speak today. That's the size of the market. So is the market big enough? I think it's huge. That's the size of the market. Now, the second question, whether there's a need for multiple agencies. Again, the assumption that agencies compete with each other is completely incorrect. I think what the gentleman said right to me is you collaborate. And how do you collaborate? Because it's such a huge market, you could dissect it by regions, you could dissect it by modes of delivery, right? So you've got digital, you've got cable and satellite, broadcast, and you could use the same data to cross-validate. And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I don't want to quote the name of the channel, but one of the channels that we work with today gets 132 million views on YouTube, which is India's #1 channel as on date. Now, I can't take that name right now, but does that reflect on the system? It won't, because the panel is not equipped to do that. Having said that, this entire concept of trying to measure cable and satellite is preposterous. It is not possible. 3 reasons, Anurag, right? First, complete misrepresentation. Why? Because there are 857 unique feeds, one of which is Tata Sky, one of which is City Cable, one of which is Hathway. Ab in 857 feeds, it depend karta hai pura transmission of a channel. Today, you can reach the entire BARC universe. I'm not poking holes, but it's a system failure. It's not a BARC thing. You can reach the entire BARC universe for a Hindi news channel by specifically targeting 326 of those MSOs. तो उसके बाद बाकी जगह आप हो ही भी नहीं तो representation में you are available 100%. So that is cheating, or is that an exam paper leak? I don't know what it is, but it's a permanent paper leak. It's a non-starter. Is this rocket science? No, we do it. Many broadcasters with intelligent people in maths and statistics do it. It's a no-brainer. So by targeting some 30-40% of the population, you can hit 100% of the universe. 1. 2. This is something very interesting, which I am pretty sure, I haven't raised this before, but I think Avinash should be aware of this. We had this chat earlier. Something called break ratings. अब ये जो जितना TRP का system जो हम बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, उसमें TRP का exist ही नहीं करता. मैं समझाता हूँ क्यों. Paritosh, you can take that if you want to debate on that one. You will understand. You are the statistician with a grin on your face. Let's take a English news channel. उसका weekly reach जो आता है, it comes to about 1% in a week. So total all India 50, 60, 70,000 people meters. Who will fund it? No one can fund people meters beyond that. So if there are 60,000 people meters in a market like Bombay, there are some 1,500 people meters, public knowledge. It's in the public domain. Now, if a channel gets a reach of 1%, इसका मतलब 1500 में 1% meters ने देखा होगा, 15 meter ने देखा. In a week, if 15 meters watched it, how many watched it in a day? 15 divided by 7, but if you add the duplicacy, it would be about 5, 6 meters. How many in 1 hour? Less than 1. So how the hell do you get a break rating of 30 seconds? It's non-starter. So I'm saying the system is preposterous. So you cannot correct it, right? The third thing again, Avinash, you called me about 6 months ago when you checked into hotel, right? There was a Tata Sky or some other channel. So it's a relative thing. We did a story on that. We worked around it big time. It's called the chance pay dance. So there's something called the MDUs, multi-dwelling units. So if you have a DTH operator with a dish in a society where there are like 100 or 500 homes, you will have one dish. And out of that one dish, you will have signals going to some 100, 200 homes, and they will have a separate set-top box. Now, what happens? At one home, you will get channel A. At the second home, you will not get channel A because that depends on the level of the signal. So as a result, if that one home is metered, channel A की तो निकल पड़ी और दूसरे पे नहीं है तो गया वो. So this is a chance pay dance. So these are three factors. Now again, the objective is not to poke holes, but the objective is to try to explain to everyone that this sample का 50,000, 60,000 time में 10,000 था, 20,000 में भी 1 lakh हो जाएगा. It's a non-starter. It cannot work. So the process, this is like the dog wagging a tail. There is no solution to it. The better way to do it, so it's easy to poke holes. The better way to do it is to please try and understand the availability of content with some kind of research which suggests the quality of content. And once you marry the two, you have a very strong indicator. Second thing, you got something called any good piece of research is a function of two elements. One is panel data, which could be rigged, which could be manipulated, which could be leaked, married to some kind of census data. Right. So give you an example, YouTube, for example, has got in India, it's got about 500 million users. Globally, it's got about 3 billion users. I think that's a good census indicator. So agar YouTube pe ya kisi digital data pe, you got a certain pecking order, it should somehow be reflected in the analog or the cable and satellite also. It can't be the exact reverse. And the rest, I think my friend has said it all here, landing page, these are like, they're all in the
So
public
the
domain.
issue, now that we've heard everyone, the issues with the current rating system is, one, it is a television audience rating system. We want a content rating system, as in multi-platform digital measurement. Second are issues of tempering, manual tempering of data and favoring certain operators at the data level. That is the second criticism. And the third criticism is that BARC has become very impervious to suggestions. It is, I remember people complaining about LV to me. LV doesn't listen to us. I think LV looks super good today, right? So these are the three. One is it's not a multi-platform measurement. Second, there are allegations in terms of tempering of data manually. And third is BARC has become impervious. Landing pages is part of it. We saw the chats that came out a couple of years back in conversations with certain broadcasters and the then CEO of BARC. It clearly points to a rot. And then there are issues at the data collection level, at the state level, where individuals in the data collection ecosystem are taking money and tampering with data. Every week, somebody comes and gives me some inputs on that. And of course, we listen to them, but till it is proven, we don't want to publish that. But these are real concerns. How do we solve them? Mr. Rao, are they solvable in the current ecosystem? Can the ISA, whose money is used to really finance this ecosystem, step in? What can the ISA do? What can each stakeholder do?
Well, certainly what the ISA can do is
You have to keep the mic close to your...
Certainly what the ISA can do is to demand answers to the myriad questions that keep arising. The impression I get is that they're not demanding answers.
Why are they not? It's their money.
Search me, Anurag. Honestly, I wish I knew. I've been asking this question from day one. But can I just say a couple of things? That I've been listening with great interest to some of that what's just been said. You know, we keep talking about multi-screen measurement, the need for multi-screen measurement. If the question is, how can we get multi-screen measurement? Is the answer by having multiple data providers? Is that the answer?
No, but
May-
Chinta,
the reason it is being asked.
let's have some fun in the debate
Yes.
because it's becoming boring. It should sound
Keep
like
it
a 9 p.m.
interactive,
debate.
Anurag.
So the thing is that based on certain conjectures that this has not worked in telecom industry is a very different what happened with Supreme Court orders and all that, etc. We don't want to go into that. But based on certain conjectures that why do we need, will it work, and etc. Why should not we why should we stop a private player to come and establish his or her business? Why the industry is coming in between? Let private
Avinash,
player come if they have money, they have invested, they will find buyer, they will find suppliers for it. Why we are so much concerned about it? And that
Avinash,
is why I'm pointing out that who is afraid of getting a second ratings agency?
let me be clear. Let me be clear. I am not saying do not have a second rating agency. I am not afraid of competition. I have no need to be. All I am saying is, what problem is that? So if the problem is that BARC is not functioning properly, if the problem is we do not have multi-screen measurement, is the solution to have multiple providers? Is that the answer? I submit to you. I submit to you that cannot be the complete answer.
So sorry, can I just take can I respond to that? So I'm not a fence sitter. I'm party to the measurement. Let me again throw in a disclaimer since we run measurement for digital. As far as the funding is concerned, again, it's a dog wagging the tail. You're talking about cable and satellite. As far as digital is concerned, there is no hardware. We've crossed 100,000 homes that we measure live. And the data, there is no black box. You can just log on, click a button, and you have the live data coming. So where is the challenge of funding? Today, there are 3 or 4 buyers that use the data. Tomorrow, 20 will touch 500 million, will touch the YouTube base in real time.
And also, Chinta, about ISA stake in the game. Let me throw a ball in this room, which is very difficult to discuss. It would be a little embarrassing for people to discuss. BARC was formed to measure India, what India watches. That's the line that BARC takes, what India watches. So that the universe that people are watching television is measured appropriately and advertiser can benefit out of it. The agenda was this, that overall revenue of television channels will grow because products and services will be able to reach to the last end consumer much better through this measurement science. The overall industry will grow. And that is why BARC started taking a levy kind of system that based on the revenue of the broadcasters, I will charge X amount of money. Now that inherently stopped BARC from innovation. There is no accountability today. Now, on the other hand, the same ISA people, same advertiser is funding 2 big tech companies whose combined revenue from advertising is bigger than the entire television industry. And based on the data that themselves provide, it is not a third party. No, so that means that you actually would have done much better if the broadcaster would themselves, through some research data, would have provided to advertiser who actually has consumed your content. But that did not happen. We created a system which is so expensive to maintain. In today's technology is the kind of work that they do is almost possible.
Just adding, sorry,
Avinash,
putting everything in the hands of Gamma.
Broadcasters own 60% of BARC. Why don't you make it happen? What's stopping you? Broadcasters from doing it.
That's what Abdul is saying. Get telco operated first-hand data. It doesn't cost too much. And there you have the
I think
data.
No, let's put it clearly. BARC's television rating, linear television rating seems messed up. Forget everything else. Secondly,
on what basis do you say that?
Yeah, on what basis?
No, wait.
No.
Enough
On what basis?
I gave those 3 points on the basis of what?
So I'll come back to that. I think.
But one thing before you take it up, I'm just adding to what was just said. What is happening with these 2 big giants dominating the advertising revenues in India, which is again Gamma, you got Google, Amazon, Meta, and Apple. The problem is today we talk about FDI in news, controlling editorial. What will happen eventually when 80% of the news revenue is at the mercy of a global giant who has absolutely no interest in India? You'll have you've got international people calling the shots on Indian content. So that's exactly what's happening in the absence of a third party measurement. So again, I'm coming to where I started from. The idea is not to have three agencies to compete with each other, and people would jolly well pick the best one. So merely ye work karta hai, they'll pay number 1 and 2. That is a no-brainer. The objective is to collaborate with agencies and cross-validate data. I still hold a question that what is a bigger panel size, 50,000 or 500 million?
I think this actually warrants some conversation. There is a statistical problem here. The statistical problem is that people do not appreciate that at 50,000 homes, which is 200,000 respondents, the relative error at even a state by town class level, a state by town class by gender level is really very, very low. We are talking about a better than 99% confidence.
Sorry, Paritosh, I disagree. I've got examples. I'll get a 5 crore legal notice if I note it right now. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to give you the name of the number. There are channels which are non-existent in states and they get a rating on BARC. Can you answer that? And I'm going to give you legal. I'm going to give you Paritosh, you'll get
All
image
kind
proofs
of
of a channel not available.
audience influence
if
is a
we-
malpractice, isn't it? All kind of influence to an audience is a malpractice.
Well, the
Okay.
sad truth.
When
on
Mark
that
is
one-
reporting, Mark is reporting
guys,
landing pages
it's turning
malpractices
into a
as a
backtracking
genuine
session.
viewership.
Let's pause
What
for
is
a
it that we're talking about?
Avinash, landing page, landing page is a secondary issue. I am
No, I haven't
putting
even
some-
gone there yet.
I'm not even going to the landing pages.
Yeah.
Landing page है तो मैं तो कह रहा हूँ channel ही नहीं है. And how is it getting rated on the BARC panel is my question. And we can have an offline, if you wish, where we'll give you image grabs
Pankaj.
of a channel non-existent.
Let's
Let
pull back.
Paritosh-
Let's pull back.
let Paritosh.
I think
Go
we
to
are losing our way.
Principle,
Exactly. I want to bring that up.
Why you need multiple?
No.
That is why.
How will
Again,
this solve the problem?
If your house is not in order, fix your house. You want to hand over your house to Pakistan, doesn't make any
They
sense.
have not fixed it. Those people in management who have got.
Right.
50 years
So I want to
of
talk about
experience
that.
are not
Abdul,
capable.
I want to talk about that.
The structure of the BARC will never allow it to reform. I'm telling you. And we can debate on that.
Okay, no, we don't want to debate on that. We have been talking about a bogey in the room multiple times saying government, we don't want, etc. Karthik brought up financial services. In financial services, we had 2 exchanges, no doubt about it. But I think everyone knows which exchange really performed for the longest time and which exchange was trundling along. And then NPCI came. One player which has disrupted one. Where did that come from? It came from government. Government is the biggest innovator in this country right now. I also don't like regulation, but I think when this happens, when a dog fight among the members of the household happens, then the Karta has to step up. And that may be the best way to clean this house.
And the government is inviting for a second agency.
They are.
So clearly,
No, but we may have to debate that.
I mean, we're supporting what you're saying.
We may have to debate that.
The government is saying.
No, the problem with multiple is it'll be more khichdi. So already there is khichdi. and it'll be more. So
Let me get Paritosh.
Let me ask a question, or actually make a few points. What are ratings used for? And I'm actually going to start with something that you said, Pankaj, that there needs to be perhaps a measurement of quality as much as there is of quantity. Now, interestingly enough, the way that research for television began, and this began in 1937 with BBC, was for content quality and not quantity, right? It was a terrestrial only, London only network. It reached some 5,000 homes. And what they were interested in was to try to figure out whether people were actually enjoying the content that they were putting out. And there were these classicists who were doing operas and operettas and, very formal kind of Shakespearean plays and all on TV, until one measurement guy, a statistician, started knocking on doors and started doing what we would call a DAR today, a day after recall kind of a study. Now, even today, the big use cases are actually on content and on ad sales. Those are the 2 big use cases.
Yes.
Now, if the measurement was so wildly off as is being sort of suggested, if not directly being accused of, then somewhere along the line, the system would have perished, right? Any measurement system that does
Cannot
not
perish, but there's no competition. How will it
Can I
perish?
complete my
And
thought,
you are,
Avinash?
no, BARC is taking money out of my revenue, no matter what they perform.
No, there
So
have
how will
been
it perish?
no, wait. Of course they can. Because if enough of you, and there are periods when, people have walked away saying that I do not wish to be a part of this.
Yeah.
They can find those channels, no?
No.
Paritosh, sorry, they cannot perish. I'll tell you why. Because those guys who exited had to forcefully come back because Bark is the gate opener for an advertise to advertise with you.
Absolutely.
Bark में होगे तो पैसे ही नहीं मिलेगा तो बेचारा करेगा क्या वो?
I'm talking about currency measurement. That's what you need to have. You need to have a basis of transaction. Now, if you don't have a basis of transaction,
That's a real question. Let me accept what you're saying. What do you think this currency can improve in? Let me ask you that.
so, and now I will come to your point about do we need multi-screen measurement? Absolutely. Nobody can disagree with
Why it doesn't happen for such a long time?
it. There are all kinds of
Because, I'll tell you why. Because the
Anurag, you're not a participant in the debate. You are the moderator. You should moderate.
Let me speak then. First, I'll tell you, the BBC example that you gave was very apt. Unfortunately, we were talking about the 80s, and the diary was the most appropriate thing to do at that point in time. Today, we are in a digital world. This idea of having data which is 9 days old with human intervention getting released on a Thursday is a complete disaster. I'll tell you why. As an advertiser, if I see the numbers going up, I would like to bet on real time and place my ads. I will not like to wait for 9 days in the case of a sports, especially in the case of a news. When there's a breaking news and you see the numbers spike, that's when the rates go up. The hotel that we stay in today, the rates vary from 9,000 to 35,000. That depends on consumer demand, and that's how they make money. The broadcasters have the same right to spike their rates in the case of big events. Unfortunately, the data comes in 9 days later. Solution kya hai? Use digital as a representation. Hai.
And
What's the problem?
Only
Now, how is it possible that a digital universe, if you look at the digital universe vis-a-vis the cable and satellite universe, you have 800 million internet users in India. It's a much bigger sample. अगर वो सारे कुछ देख रहे हैं, तो ऐसा थोड़ा हो सकता है कि वहां पे नहीं देख रहे होंगे, ये देख रहे होंगे.
I am not carrying a candle for
Mr. Chairman,
anything.
Mr. Chairman,
No, you're on the other side. That's what I'm pointing at you.
But the point I
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
the reason digital measurement has not been brought in because it will make the television ratings look silly.
Well,
That's what people say.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
We are drifting. But let's assume for a moment
Mr.
that we
Chairman.
want multi-screen measurement. The only significant industry body, measurement body, which has been able to arm twist Meta and Alphabet into actually allowing to peer behind their wall garden is Bob. Nobody else has been able to do it. Bob and Mediametry are beginning to do it, right? You need the clout of an entire industry, as in all the stakeholders, to lean into an to lean into an Alphabet or a Meta before they will let you see what's going on inside their wall garden. An individual player will never be able to do it.
That will come through regulation, Paritosh. That will come through regulation. And government is coming on that. Okay. The big brother will come and help us
Mr. Chairman,
on this problem.
Mr.
So
Chairman.
then what we are
Brother
debating
is
here,
going to be
what we are
doing-
debating here is that I'm saying why anyone is afraid of a competition.
I don't think Mark is afraid of competition, and I think
No,
it's a
no,
misrepresentation
that-
that any rating agency. No. I mean, I'm not
Can
speaking
I-
for Park here, but honestly, in all seriousness, I have seen it. There was a time, and like I said, Chinta and I were on the board of MRUC back in the day. There was a suggestion made that somebody will go and revive NRS. And I personally, at the time in the board, G. Krishnan was our chairman. I said, be my guest. You know, you can't find people to pay for this one study, and you think somebody is going to be paying for that for 2 years before you have usable data?
But Paritosh, there is a suggestion. Use telco data. It doesn't cost anything.
Boss.
How will you weight it?
You don't want telco data because you're afraid.
No,
And
how
who
will you
wants to
weight it?
You're
You
scared.
need to be
No,
statistically reliable.
that's methodology. That is the next
I'm
part
sure
of
we'll
the
get-
roadmap.
But
not
no,
just the
Anurag, you have to be a moderator and not participant in the debate.
One second, hold on.
Really saying that the point is that the data at the collection level is being manipulated. That is the criticism of Bar.
We've had one.
This is just an allegation, Dr. Batra. You are
Sad but true.
Kailash, sorry, yeah, listen, one guy spent a decent amount of time in jail and the other one is charge sheeted on Bark, unfortunately, right? So there could not be speculation. There are videos that have been speculations.
I'm an advocate.
I'm not
I don't
defending-
give I'm not sass. I just want the truth. But I don't think it's fair to be dragging that kind of stuff into this debate. Because-
but
no,
people,
it's-
that's a
not-
system failure. It's a system failure is what I'm trying to refer. We're not referring to again.
Debating-
The
Are we
disclaimer was-
debating the death of Bark and the birth of another phoenix? or are we debating?
No, we are.
clean
Why are we
statistics?
debating this?
Yeah.
We are this.
The question is, Karthi, why are we debating? As I said, there are three issues. One is manual interventions in data. Second is the digital universe and the TV universe having anomalies in terms of what it is beyond. And third is overall resistance to any suggestions that come to. And this BARC stakeholders have told me off the record. I won't be able to take names, but the biggest names that are on BARC, I've spoken to 80% of them. I don't want to embarrass them by taking their names. So I'm talking structural issues. I'm saying, how do we bring down manual intervention to zero? How do we make sure the digital platform universe is represented? How do we make sure between the analog and digital, there is some correlation? Those are the questions I'm asking. I'm not saying right or wrong.
One
Dr.
second,
Batra, I'd
Karthik,
like
before
to-
you speak on
I'll
what
just take
Anurag
2
is saying,
seconds.
I am
Yeah.
saying this entire concept of panel and sample of 50,000 is a non-starter paritosh. ये चल ही नहीं सकता. 50,000 का 1 लाख हो जाएगा as long as there is hardware installed. It cannot work. That's the problem. No matter what you do, we are Indians, we are very smart. I will figure out a way to leak it. Understand? It cannot work. The only way to go is to go digital and use a better methodology to do it. There is no other way.
So Pankaj, Paritosh may argue it because he's a statistician by education. I don't argue it. I'm very happy with
Genetically, that is so.
the theory of large numbers. But for that also, to buy alternatives or to buy from alternatives is for a marketer is bloody confusing, because then every broadcaster, every media sales agency will be coming to my door and pitching me cherry picked data, and then I have to be the
That's
other.
the-
All the information.
Now you're buying,
Eventually,
buying
no,
from Metcom
Karthik.
based on their data. You're buying
Correct.
from Snapchat based
Correct.
on their data. You're buying from Google based
You're buying
on their
YouTube
data.
on their data. You're buying
from anybody else.
Karthik,
And
eventually,
I'm not buying, but I don't represent the
But-
industry, and I understand that. I understand
You
that.
as an
But they also today have no choice, because that is the currency in that space. Of course, we'd like to change that. Of
Karthik,
course, we'd like
eventually-
that also to be fixed.
eventually,
सब साले चोर हैं, हमको हमाम में नंगा होना है.
eventually what happens is
Mr.
the
Rao.
market in any industry, eventually what happens is the market forces speak for themselves. If there are 3 agencies and one of them is completely useless, it will die a natural death.
But who will decide what is useless?
The buyer and the seller.
All the 3 stakeholders.
You are a seller, you will decide, and the buyer will decide. Who else will decide?
Everyone will have a different perspective, Pankaj. Here I'd like wish to say that, we are debating about the fact that if a house has a particular leakage, leave that house, go to another house. You have a choice of
No,
going to
but
another
you
house.
know, why
That
not?
does not mean that you do not fix it. As Dr. Batra said, that there are 3 issues. First, about manual intervention, he mentioned, because there could be some concrete proof of it, which is, I think, now in the court of law, and few charge sheet have been filed as mentioned by Pankaj. But still, we cannot here in a particular debate say with 100% authenticity, yes, there's manual intervention, but I'm not negating that fact either. Secondly, is there room for improvement in BARC? Yes, for every organization, Dr. Batra, even for an individual, there is always room for intervention if you're giving suggestions. And then it is upon BARC and all the 3 stakeholders who are driving BARC and driving the entire industry to make BARC understand, hey, listen, these are the certain areas where we all collective as a field that, there is room for intervention. Can there be robust audit mechanisms? Yes, there can be robust mechanism, so that as Pankaj says, कि ये channel तो दिख ही नहीं रहा है और उसकी rating कहाँ से आ रही है. पर हमेशा ऐसा नहीं होता. अगर तारक मेहता का उल्टा चश्मा की rating आ रही थी, तो उसकी वजह से हमें नहीं पता चला कि it is loved by the audiences. We know as a matter of fact socially that is a show which is number 1. Time used to give data for क्योंकि सास भी कभी होती, but then people like that show also. So always you do not find that correlation, Dr. Batra.
Anurag, sorry, हमेशा वाला का logic, I'm sorry, Kailash, but कभी भी नहीं होना चाहिए. अगर चैनल है नहीं तो उसको रेटिंग तो आनी नहीं चाहिए ना लॉजिकली.
And there are anomalies.
हाँ, नहीं, बराबर है आपकी बात.
Okay, let's
ऑडिट मैकेनिज्म की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ ना, कि ऑडिट मैकेनिज्म और रोबस्ट होने चाहिए, क्या डिजिटल पे जाना बार की उसने
ये सारी जो जड़ है,
Incentive for BARC to reform itself. Tell me
That's
one.
option.
all the 3 stakeholders tell me.
There were audit reports. Listen, there were audit reports. The government of India constituted a direct return path data committee and all that, etc. was formed. Some guidelines were issued that how the board should be reformed, how the measurement science should be reformed. What has happened since then? I can give you 5 examples which has
And
happened
these
in the
are
last 6
members.
months.
So
which is-
members not represented privately, they say the same. So important stakeholders of the bar.
Wait. This is lovely.
There's no financial
Let-
incentive for
let-
BARC
no,
to
let
reform.
me- this is
Unless-
great.
Unless we bring that into picture.
me-
Let
BARC will never
Mr. Rao and Paritosh respond.
Yeah, let me
First,
let me
Paritosh
respond to
and then
that.
Mr. Rao.
Here is an organization where all the possible stakeholders in the direct value chain are already
there. They are in the board, they are in the technical committee, they are in multiple committees of that organization, right? They have visibility of what's going on over there. Now, if they decide to abdicate in an industry body, right, then there is nothing that anybody can hold the organization accountable for, because its governance structure is a problem. And, you know, we know who these organizations are. We've talked about ISA. You mentioned IBDF and the 3 A's of I. So if the constituent organizations are failing to, you know, do what they are required to do, that is not a zone that this will answer. If you now set up, wait, let me finish this thought. If you now say, and by all means, I mean, anybody is welcome. If somebody says that they wish to provide a rating, by all means, go ahead and do it. You will have zero visibility. I mean, all of us remember in the last years of TAM, LV used to talk about the technical committee. It was as real as the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. Nobody had seen it. Now, are you saying that this will somehow, that tomorrow, let's say Nielsen's come back into the country or Kantar comes into the country and says, we'll offer ratings, go ahead and do it. You will have zero visibility. You will have no control over it. If they say, this is how we are doing it, well, this is how we're doing
Visibility is
it. Owner own.
Visibility is
Where it is
not
today.
doing its job.
Where it is today. Where it is today.
Avinash, let Mr. Rao speak. Mr. Rao?
I just want to be, I think that we are missing the wood for the trees. I think we are missing the wood for the trees.
Mark is missing or we are missing?
This debate,
There is no wood. Right.
this debate is missing the wood for the trees. I think those of us who are on this side of the aisle, those who are speaking against the motion, are not making a case for bark.
Yeah.
We are merely saying there is no case for multiple providers. If there is a problem with the existing service provider, having more does not solve that problem.
What is the solution, sir?
Either you fix this provider or have another provider.
Who? You already contradicted yourself in one sentence.
Broadcasters are complaining about bark. That I don't know whether that amuses me or bemuses me or both. You own bark, for God's sake, fix it.
What for linear TV?
What else will happen? You think some other outside some Kantar or Nielsen or somebody will come and fix it for you?
Mr. Rao, fix it for
what
linear
you
TV.
own?
You're saying we fix bark for linear TV, we fix bark for multi-screens, or we just throw them out?
The allegation is that bark is already fixed.
For what?
All I'm saying is whatever.
Pankaj Krishna said that, not me.
No, I haven't said that. I'm saying that is the allegation. Now I'm fixing something already fixed.
No,
If you're right, Karthik, you've been listening to
That's the
everyone.
allegation.
no, no.
Karthik, you've been listening to everyone and you're a mature and a balanced voice, as I said.
I think somewhere I agree that in the last few minutes, we've just lost track of what I think the central question is. There are two ways to interpret this. Do we need a single currency? The answer is probably yes. And that's what gives, and I would agree on that point with Paritosh that a currency has to be currency. My starting point was that there is more than one agency which can complement. I come from that school. It's not about competition. I hold that same view. There are still a large country like us. There are many underrepresented audiences, sample sizes. We can get into technicalities, but I leave it just at a
So you
overall
think the
level.
second agency should complement bark
That
and
was-
complete it?
That was my opening statement, and whether it is digital data, there are multiple things which we are not measuring. So what can bark fix or anybody can?
Why is bark impervious? The reason Mr. Rao and Mr. Joshi are also saying or not saying that bark needs to improve, or whatever currency, which is a single currency, needs to improve. What are those improvements? I talked about clearly 4 areas. 3 have been in the public domain. One is manual tempering of data. Second is disconnect with the digital performance, right? And third is the fact that the structure of the bark is such that things are not moving forward. This is the bark stakeholders saying, board members saying this off the record.
Just have one more point, the human point. I think the whole structure of bark needs to be moved. Those guys need to retire, genuinely retire, and get people who are not retired, who are practicing managers who are handling these things. That's
Okay.
Can I
Yeah, Pankaj.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Please ask me a question. I've been waiting for you to ask me a question.
Okay.
So anyway, so I'll tell you what it is. Where we started this entire debate, again, it's not about BARC. I completely buy the point. It's a huge market. And why do we not consider complementing agencies? That's all there is to it.
And
There is
Chrome could be
nothing-
one of them.
I'm not even pitching for the business, right? So we are already doing well. I mean, touch wood. The point is not that. The point is in today's scenario, Kailash, Paritosh, and Karti, if there is data which is available in real time, what is the time on your watch right now? It's 4:11. You have the data for 4:10 p.m. of how many people have watched a particular channel with a panel of 100,000 individuals. I'm not pitching Chrome, but it is Chrome data. If you have that data in real time, why can that not be an industry accepted norm where there is no black box, there is no human intervention? आप अभी देखो breaking news जाएगा, you will see the panel responding so beautifully. Why are you waiting for 9 days? So my question is again, I'm reiterating the point, this sampling methodology of 50,000 homes or 60,000 homes is a non-starter. Kitna bhi kar lo, what have you achieved in the last 10 years? Why was TAM discontinued? Because on CNBC Live, you had the panel addresses being given out, right? It was 10,000 homes, 10 ka 20, 20 ka 50. How does that make a difference?
And you know,
entire process is incorrect. It's a non-starter, Paritosh, you are trying to.
Paritosh, so what
Secondly,
is
statistically,
how can you rest this debate? How can you put the fears or the genuine concerns people have, even if we don't need the second? Are they addressable? Are they going to be addressed in the near future term? So,
May I?
You know, sorry, Chinta has something to say.
yeah, go ahead. Mr. Rao?
The answer to your question lies with the ISA. It is their money that fuels the entire system. The entire media ecosystem is fueled with advertising money. Their money fuels the whole system. Why are they not demanding answers? Why don't they demand what is required? ISA is the answer.
Can I give you the answer? It's the current measurement system shows that the universe is shrinking. Certain. It helps the advertisers. You wanted an answer? Here is. I don't know. I keep thinking.
Time spent is.
No. Sorry. I don't agree with you there at all. I don't agree with you there at all.
I don't think the universe is shrinking at all.
No. Sorry. I don't agree with you.
as reported on cable and satellite, the universe has shrunk. And it's shrinking year to year. The current cable and satellite numbers. One second, allow me to complete, Anurag. The cable and satellite numbers reported on BARC today are at about 160 million, which is validated with us as well, right? The numbers were 200 million. So the universe is shrinking. Out of those 160 million, Free Dish takes about 60 million. You're left with 100 million pay homes. Anurag is 100% right. It works in the interest of an advertiser. Why will the opposite?
Hello.
Asking is the reason. I don't know.
Please, what you're saying is advertisers are happy to see the universe shrinking because they can negotiate the rates down. Are you telling me that the entire interest of an advertiser of Hindustan Lever, Procter & Gamble, etc., is to pay low rates? That's it. That they're in the business just to pay low rates. They don't want actual data. Who cares about data? Let's just pay low rates. Is that what they want? Is that what you're saying? Are you serious?
I don't know. I'm just putting.
No, please. Okay. Advertisers are happy because the universe is being shown to be shrinking and they don't want to change that system. They don't want to know the truth. Please.
So, Chinta, I have a question to you.
Advertisers don't want digital data. Advertisers don't want multi-channel data.
Chinta, I have a question to you. Chinta, I have a question to you. No. Chinta, any marketer is interested in getting his products and services sold more or buying media cheap. What would be his primary interest?
He's already answered it.
First one, right? So selling, right? So BARC suspended its news rating for about 18 months. During that 18 months, most of the channels got a lot of ads. The day rating came, next day those guys who fell in the pecking order, their advertising stopped. No, you're not delivering. So what was it important? Rating or actual sales of goods or delivery of goods and services? It was working good for 18 months. All of a sudden, when the rating comes, some channel goes down. And they say, no, this is not good for now for my business. And that's the way I'm saying that probably this was working for marketeers. And those clients came back to those channels. But finally, the rate went down.
No, that's not true. What is true is that in a blind man's country, you have no choice but to throw money at the wall and see what happens. When there is currency of any kind, then you have a fiduciary responsibility to answer to that and to use
when-
that, right? In the boardroom, I have to go answer why I spent my money the way I did. When there is no data, we are all playing equally blind, and then I can take my chances. I can play with my gut also because I have no bloody choice, right? So to answer your question, Anurag, why the advertisers are not stepping up? Chinta is asking it. We are all asking it. The advertisers with the 20% share in this business are not stepping up. I can only speculate that managers will behave like this. Owners will never behave like this. And we need more advertiser owners to understand the problem and to participate.
Thank you.
We
Thank
need more customer.
Thank you,
Karthi, I
Thank
agree
you,
with
Karthi.
Karthi, I just have one question for Karthi. As an
Before you
advertiser,
say that, I want to say one thing to you.
mine is a question. I'm not saying anything.
No, I'm saying something to you, however. Kill Bark, let Chrome rule or a Chrome equivalent rule, no problem. As a marketer, we are absolutely happy. Just give us one powerful version of the truth. But we want one so that we don't have to debate this in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Saying
So
कि
I will-
ये झूठा है, हमने उसका ले लिया है, वो सच्चा है. वो नहीं करना है.
I will comment by saying thank you first. My question to you, Karthi, is as an advertiser, on a more serious note, right? Would you advertise, and if you're selling soap or whatever you're selling, would you try and reach the entire television universe of 160 million or whatever that number is? Or would you take a call on gut, the word that you used, based on a currency which could represent 160 million by just targeting 30, 40 million, where the panel is? Does that make sense?
Like a good politician, since we are in election season, I will deflect. I will not answer your question directly, but I will answer it. So here's what, as an advertiser, I want to do. If I was selling something that the whole country is consuming, like toothpaste and soap, quite likely I'm very happy to advertise to everybody, like Byron Sharp also recommends. In most cases, particularly in my business, we actually want to reach some very discrete segments, and data currently is struggling to give that to us. So there is no insight. So all the media planning in the world comes back to us and we are told to buy the same damn KBC and IPL. फिर फर्क क्या है और फायदा क्या है? That's where we are at. So we want richer data. We want more granular data, and we want truth. That
But
we will buy.
I
And
think-
then for different reasons and
Sorry.
different products and different
Sorry.
segments, we'll be buying different
Sorry,
things.
Karthi,
no?
you didn't answer
So
my
help us.
question. You didn't answer my question.
He said he'll
I-
reflect and
I-
come back.
No. So I didn't frame the question correctly, so I'll take it on me. I'll say it directly. In a currency which is dependent on intermediaries, where we started off with, allow me to complete, with 857 MSOs that rule this entire transmission path, in a currency where you could show a representation of 100% by just being available in some 30-35% of those cable ops, by leaving aside 70% of the population, isn't it preposterous for an advertiser to even consider using that data? वो तो representation ही गलत है.
जवाब नहीं
I
I
will respond to that.
जवाब दे देता हूं. I believe the dollar is worth only 50 rupees. I'm forced to pay 85 rupees today. That's my answer.
It sounded good, but I didn't get the answer.
Altosh,
Okay. Again, I think statistics is important. We are talking about measurement systems, so to completely ignore that statistics has a role to play in this room is a little, to use your word, preposterous. If, and this is in general, any currency system anywhere in the world, if it inaccurately represents store of value, it fails. You know, I mentioned the Zimbabwean dollar, or maybe I did not, or the Argentinian peso. If it does not accurately represent the value of goods and services which you are trading in the marketplace, eventually the currency will fail. It will not be a basis of conversation. It will not be a basis of negotiation, right? If for 10 years at the broad strokes level, if the numbers which BARC publishes and which get used, as he said, in a fiduciary way by people defending their marketing spends to people like their shareholders and hedge funds, if it is able to consistently perform over this large period of time for the $4 billion that he was talking about, it must be doing something right. To throw this very large baby out with the very large bathwater, I think is a little bit misplaced. Now, as far as this manual intervention is concerned, I think you must use the right word. It's mischief. Manual intervention is not people fiddling with the data at BARC. The fiddling is happening because people are trying to identify which homes that meter is installed in using the cable operator and then trying to go and nobble it. And it is a continuous game of cops and robbers that BARC is forced to play, and everybody has been forced to play. Whether you were NRS, whether you were IRS, whoever you were, every single time there is always, and I'm sad to say this, it's always the media owner who is implicated in corrupting a measurement system.
So that is why, Paritosh, what we are all saying, that look, the problem with the BARC is not about its people or intention or the original idea in which the BARC was formed. You were on the drawing board of BARC, right? The problem with the BARC is it's the way it functions, the way it is structured. And there
And
is
it's
no
a governance
financial-
question, and it is not a
it's not a
multi-agency
governance
question.
It's not a governance question. There's no financial incentive for BARC to do a good job and get a pat on the back.
It is a system failure.
Because you are going to get the
Well, the
0.8%.
financial success,
You are going to get the 0.8% from my
It's
revenue.
a-
No matter. No, listen to me.
You'll
BARC-
kill it if
based
it
on
doesn't
BARC
work.
Based on the BARC rating, the advertising revenues are sold. Take out the listed companies' revenue, okay, and tell me if the number one channel in news, as per BARC, is getting the number one channel, which is the market perceives in the revenue. That means the BARC itself has failed. The clients and agencies are not looking at the BARC data alone. While we are paying as broadcaster a levy to the BARC so that it can give me data which I can go and market sell, but that's the non-sellable data. And that is where the problem is. This reform will not happen until BARC has a disincentive of supplying wrong data or an incentive to supply the right data. The company should be rewarded for a good performance, and any company should be discarded for the bad performance. You talked about currency. The currency in Zimbabwe failed because people had access to dollar. If there is an alternative currency that is available, it will the incumbent will also improve itself, and things will become better for
Mr.
everyone.
Pandey, I'd like to make a point. Sorry, Paritosh, I'd just like to make a point. You were mentioning about that, if there's an incumbent and you mentioned that the Zimbabwean people had access to dollars, and that's why the local currency failed. Now it is about, if we have, let's say you have another rating agency, do you see everyone going in the same boat? See, we had time and we had BARC, at that time. Then we should have kept both. Why did everyone come together and choose BARC, and finally it moved out of time? When time was there, time was also there. Then why did the both merge? We had instances of duopoly in the past, but we chose monopoly. So there must be a reason of choosing the monopoly. Now we are talking about that, let's say BARC is not bad, or the way of functioning is not bad, but there are certain structural problems that BARC needs to fix. Now for that, the three stakeholders who own BARC, by virtue, like today, if I'm a shareholder of a company, in an AGM, I have all the rights to stand up and shout, in front of the chairman of the company, if I'm aggrieved by that. If the ISA or the AAAI or certain members of the IBDF are not happy with BARC, then they should complain about it, because BARC financials are not so weak. They do get plugged because it is 60% of IBDF and 60%, and now it becomes a subsidiary of IBDF. When IBDF reports comes out, the financials of BARC, and they're handsomely reported, the financials of BARC, and it is not a very an organization which is cash starved or which does not have the cash or it does not have the incentive. Now about leaving the same kind of revenue to all, because there cannot be discrimination, because again the members of the broadcasting members will stand up. Why I'm being charged this, why I'm being charged that. If someone is charged less, and let's say God forbid, if his ratings are low, then he will open a different Pandora box. Then someone will say, okay, I'll pay more.
Kailash, uska jawab yahi hai.
Complain to the mirror. Complain to whom?
Correct.
आईने में देख के complain करने का है?
Abdul, just 1 second. Kailash,
conversation about
The reason
We have to
that-
close this at 4:30 and
reason-
1 minute closing remarks.
Reason I am for multiple agencies is that let the market forces play its role. If they die, they better die. The BARC improves better, but let the BARC improve better, improve for it better. But you cannot say that no, there should not be any other agency, and we'll only work for BARC for 10 years or 15, 14 years that we are working with the BARC.
Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying that.
Even Mr. Karthi Marsha, Mr. Rao, and Mr. Paritosh Yoshi are saying that one currency is good because then it's a currency. Improve what we have. That's what Mr. Rao has been saying in Delhi, Bombay. The ISA must step up its act and involvement and improve what needs to be improved. He's not saying, he's saying the two agency system may not solve the problems that are there with one agency system. Right? That's the central point. At this point, let me get closing comments from all of you. Let me start with people who have started in the round as last. So, Kailash, your closing comments.
Thank you. So, I believe that in the last 1.5 hours, we debated all the important points with regards to, and we all on against the motion, we decided, we are talking about whether we need multiple agencies or just one agency. We are not, no one of us is advocating about BARC. If there are structural changes needed to the organization, yes, all the stakeholders might as well come up, suggest those structural changes. And I don't see any reason for BARC to turn a deaf ear to it, because BARC at the end of the day survives on our money. It survives on the money given by broadcasters, the advertisers, as well as the agencies. But as Mr. Joshi mentioned in his opening comment, we need to have just one currency, because multiple currencies or even a duopoly in the currencies will just create confusion. And at the end of the day, it will lead to no solution.
Thank you, Pankaj.
Kailash, you made a good point on why everyone chose BARC, and they were doing something right about it. But the answer to that is times change, right? And again, I'll try to answer that with a question. All of you have a camera on your phone? You do?
Yeah.
How many of you insert a reel to take a picture? It's digital, right? That's obsolete. And that's how I define cable and satellite measurement. It's a dead horse that we are trying to tackle. That's exactly what it is. The idea is not, and I completely buy the point, that there is no rationale of a currency when you've got multiple players on it. You need one currency. But to get that one currency, it could be 5 different stakeholders working together across regions, across delivery mechanisms, but all cross-validating the data to churn out one unified currency, which does not have to be under a single form of measurement. That's the take. So it is not about competition. It's about collaboration with multiple players.
Mr. Khan.
I have a single point. I would like to see where in the world have you unified all medium with one currency, as you put it. I would be very intrigued and would love to be part of a team which puts together medium, ranging from what to what and ends up with one currency.
Mr. Karthi Marshan.
I would say that the one stakeholder who's not been in this conversation, which is the consumer, actually has the most powerful people meter in their hands, which Pankaj referred to as well. I would very happily deflect to that people meter, which is the phone in their hands, and get them to opt in to give us information which can be near census and arguably at near zero cost as well, and solve this problem.
Absolutely. Mr. Karthik Sharma.
I go back to my opening point. I think complementing with the current ratings is what I think the future is. It's not looking at only one side of the incumbent player, and definitely I don't come from a school of BARC bashing at all. There's value in every measurement. How can we complement some of the points which Mr. Krishna spoke about? There's a lot of data which is sitting on the digital platforms. That's a given, whether it's telco. How do we make best use of it is the opportunity, rather than worrying about some of the points that we have of what a system cannot provide.
Thank you, Mr. Paritosh Joshi.
I think we lost our way somewhere along this entire conversation from discussing multiple platforms to doing BARC forensics. And I think the point that you made are very sound in terms of what the BARC forensics need to look like. As far as multiple operators is concerned, in a sense, they exist already. In a sense, there are people like Pankaj who are providing complementary data, which enables you in some senses to cross-check what you're getting. There is a little outfit in Bangalore which has been doing it using apps which run on people's mobile phones. So it's not that they don't exist. The only point is that when you have an industry body in place where all the stakeholders are already represented, it becomes incumbent upon them, it becomes obligatory upon them, and I'm going to use your fiduciary word yet again, particularly in a Section 8 company. This is a not-for-profit company, so nobody is actually receiving any dividends from it. It is that much more critical in this kind of an organization. If you have to lean on somebody, go back and lean on the shareholders and tell them, get your act together instead of whining about it.
Thank you so much, Paritosh. Mr. Chintamani Rao, your final comment.
Just 2 things. One is just to reiterate that I think none of us here is making a case for BARC or saying all is well with BARC. We're simply saying there is no case for multiple providers. Number 1. Number 2, Mr. Pankaj Krishna has been suggesting various entities at collecting at regional level and so on and so forth, collecting data, and then they collaborate and the data is cross-validated. Very good thought. Cross-validated by whom? By 2 or 3 different providers, by each one for themselves, or by one central body which cross-validates all the data. If the latter case, then that is a single data provider.
Thank you, Mr. Rao.
But it gets cross-validated with the players themselves, because once there is no black box, Mr. Rao, what I'm referring to, when everything is operating in the public domain in real time, it is a natural cross-validation. The question arises when there's deferred release of data with human mischief or manipulation is what we are talking about.
Sure,
So
we
it is
got
not
it.
live and transparent.
We got it, Pankaj. Avinash, your final comments.
One good thing has come out that we all agree that BARC needs a serious reform. Okay, so I'm very happy about that. Second one is this, that look, the multiple agencies in any business, if the industry body itself was able to solve the problem, as my colleague Paritosh has rightly pointed out, that IRS became a problem, so has become the BARC. Largely, my idea is this, that the government of India has already intervened. There should be 2 large companies working with at least 2 or 3 large vendors, collecting data from different demography and geography of India and providing it to the advertisers, advertising agencies and broadcasters, and they can choose which one they want to operate with.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. I would wrap up by saying that the fact that we are debating.
Before you do that, I want to answer a little thing that Abdul mentioned. Sure. By the way, there is. What you're talking about has in fact happened. Barb has taken the lead on it in the UK. They call it touch points. This is a project which they have taken on along with the the advertising outfit in the UK. And touch points actually measures everything from print at one end to outdoor at the other.
Thank you. I'm sure we have hope. I think India is leading the way in technology with, as Karthi said, the government is a big innovator with a digital public infrastructure. I'm sure we can learn from that and implement primary source data, which has no tempering. The fact that we are debating that, the fact that some of the large stakeholders and even board members of BARC in personal conversation mention the reform of the BARC tells us that all is not well. The question is, what do we need to improve? How do we improve it? How do we fund it? The suggestion that has come up involves 3 things. One, it involves measuring content consumption, not just the TV ecosystem. So digital has to be factored in. Second, more real time and most first party data. Telcos are a solution, telco data is a solution. Who will pay for it? The way digital data is gathered, it does not involve investment in new technology, meters, and hence the cost of procuring the data should be very affordable. That's the solution. And last but not the least is that the advertisers whose money really makes the ecosystem go round have to be more active and involved in improving this ecosystem along with the agencies and broadcasters. BARC has served a purpose in the last decade. It has provided data. The intent of BARC is good. The action needs to follow the intent. Thank you. God bless you. And I hope there is no debate in the next few months on whether we need multiple ratings or not. BARC gets reformed and maybe this debate dies there itself. And if there is a second rating agency comes, hopefully next year we'll debate which one is better. Till then, we'll see you. Give our panelists a big round of applause.
I'll request everybody to stay back, and I believe the applause can be a little louder, please. I think that was quite an enchanting discussion. Now, I request everybody to stay back. Sir, do we have space for 1-2 questions if anybody wants to ask?
There is Mubin here, there is Shripad here, if you have any comments.
Please direct your question to the person you want to
Mubin,
ask.
when I was introducing, he said, I used to work with BARC very long time back.
You have a question?
Or a comment. Or a comment.
I don't have a question at all, please. I mean,
Or a
I've been
comment.
out of,
Or a comment.
I've been out of India for the past 2 years.
But you're setting up a audience measurement system in Saudi Arabia now.
We did set it up. It's already been in existence for the past 2 years. And here's the interesting thing. We deliver overnight ratings. Okay, number one. So the ratings, the day is from 3 o'clock to 3 o'clock and the data comes out at 11 o'clock. Simple. 8 घंटे में सब कुछ technologically. Number one. Number two is why did we not do overnight ratings in India, if I might just go by, because ये manual tampering और ये tampering का शब्द मुझे बड़ा interesting लगता है because the word tampering really means that somebody is manually fiddling around with something. और वो कर कौन रहा था? मैं 2013 से 2015 की बात कर रहा हूँ. ठीक है, 2016 तक की बात कर रहा हूँ, when I was on the field in multiple states, in multiple cities, and I have seen things where सब ये चैनल वाले ने आके पैसा दिया, कहा हमको देखो, से लेकर साहब ये चैनल वाले ने पैसा दिया, कहा उसको देखो. To the extent, and this is the interesting one, I'm talking about the state of Uttar Pradesh, multiple villages, I have been there, and I love traveling by road, by the way. तो मैं कई बार बस वो स्टेट ट्रांसपोर्ट की बस ले लो और निकल जाओ. ठीक है, बड़ा मजा आता था. एक चैनल है, जिस गांव में मीटर है उस गांव में उसकी होर्डिंग लगी है, जिस गांव में मीटर नहीं है वहां पे होर्डिंग ही नहीं है. कैसे होता?
नहीं, they must have a good astrologer.
Okay. Simple. Anyway, let's not get back into the 2013, 2016 thing. The thing is this. There are ways that people can do it. And as you rightly said, it's about fiduciary responsibility. It's about the fact that आप अगर बोर्ड पे हो, आप सेक्शन 8 कंपनी के बोर्ड पे हो, तो आप बैठो, बात करो, आप रेज करो इशू और आप सोल्यूशन निकालो. आप बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियों के मालिक हो साहब. आपके पास में कोई solution नहीं है तो
It is our responsibility. And we are not saying BARC has served a purpose. We're just saying improve what needs to be improved. That is the reason. There's no.
So to deliver the rating overnight, did you call the all industry body, debated for 3 years, and started levying them of 0.8% of their revenues and all that?
Sorry, Avinash. Let's answer this. उसका कारण जो था, जो overnight नहीं कर पाया, उसकी 2 reasons थे. And I'll tell you both the reasons. Reason number 1 was, and funnily enough, broadcasters said this, यार टैम हफ्ते में 1 दिन देता है, हमको भी हफ्ते में 1 दिन काफी है, क्या करेंगे? Now, हाँ, अब रोज नहीं आएगी, ये किसी ने कहा था. The second thing, and I remember one broadcaster very vociferously said, why don't you give us overnight ratings? Okay, and there were other people who said, we can't trade on overnight ratings because यार deals तो साल में एक बार होती है, साल कैंपेन के बिगिनिंग में होती है. You don't change rates the way, and somebody gave the example of the stock exchange, saying I get live stock exchange because I can buy stock live. I can't buy advertising live. So therefore, why do I need it? ये कहा गया था. दूसरा कारण जो था वो
programmatic आ गया. So that logic.
अब logic को
वो logic भी अंदर हो गया.
वो logic खत्म हो गया. The other thing that had happened, and this is a very technological thing, हमारे देश का बात है. Meters have to be live to give you back data. Correct? Now for the meter to be live, there has to be बिजली. और हमारे देश में बिजली का प्रॉब्लम था. हमें ये हो रहा था कि T+1 पे डेटा आता नहीं था, T+2 पे डेटा आता
था. ठीक है, समझ आ गया.
तो ये इशू था. अब वो सॉल्व हो गया, तो उसको आगे बढ़ाओ. उसको लेके नहीं बैठो कि यार वो राम जी गए थे अयोध्या. वैसा नहीं होता, आगे बढ़ना चाहिए.
And Shripad, you have any comment?
Yes. I think it is very clear that we need a huge overhaul, isn't it? I just want a quick, you can choose one person from here. What is the overhaul we need? It's not, we just need one more TV measurement system, for God's sake. We need a complementary one. And we must represent to the government saying, what do you want? So I'm saying, what is the overall we need? And what is the complementary system we want? We should make a representation to government. So I'd like comments from both.
I think Karthik or Paritosh or Pankaj aap le lo.
With your permission.
Kurum. Short answer.
I've got 3 brand ambassadors on my left, right? So that's not the point. I think what the point I'm trying to make, which many people did not get, we are beating a dead horse. And I think Mubin has answered it very well. A hardware device needed to do measurement is a non-starter. It cannot click. You cannot scale it up, no matter what level of funding you get, right? The answer to that in terms of complementing, as Karthi very rightly said, is use the mobile phone to get data, get something from the cable and satellite, and there are lots of research methods which Paritosh can add on. There are tons of ways of collecting data from a certain segment of audiences. Marry that panel data to some level of census data, and you have something very, very, very accurate. If you look at Hindi news, for example, everyone is saying practically the same thing, right? But there are brand associations. I watch a particular brand because I've been watching it for the last so many years, and new people are watching new brands. That's a very strong indicator of which news channel is being consumed. You marry that to the availability data of which channel is reaching how many homes across the universe, and not a panel. And you marry that to the digital census data. You'll have a 99% accuracy, Paritosh. That's the point that I had.
Thank you so much. I think we'll end the debate here and we'll chat over tea, coffee, where the sides may blur and everybody may agree on everything. And only on tea, coffee.
Thank you, audience.
God bless you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
It's expected from the moderator to do a poll of the audience.
I want.
Who won?
Okay. How many for a single rating system? 2, 3 people. Only one. How many for multiple rating systems?
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you.
At least I'll be able to figure out what it is in there.
Thank you so much, respected moderator, sir. Thank you so much. All the panelists, एक बार जोर से please वापस ताली बजाइए सबके लिए. They have added some really crucial points. All thanks to the knowledge that they have over the years. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us.
I know. Thank you, Chinta.
And thank you so much, sir, specifically for joining with us over here virtually and lending time from your busy schedule. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.